Hello and welcome, friends. Today we have an interesting story with us, but before you start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and activate the notifications button to get all our videos to you. Secondly, whoever happened to him from you on a horror situation, let him write it in the comments to make a video for followers. I've been living with my grandfather since my father's death. He was my master, but he was a stranger in his actions and life. He was accompanied only by a man as old as me, and I had seen him from time to time since I was young. Sometimes I woke up from my sleep to urge my grandfather at home. I don't find him, and suddenly I see him up from the lower turn and his clothes dirty and sometimes sporadic. I see the color of his face changed, and he looks exhausted. He had a room that he always closed, and I didn't see him once in it. He only opens it when he receives someone at night while I'm asleep, and he closes the door on himself and in the night. And one night I woke up looking for him, but I didn't find him in his bedroom, but I heard a voice in the closed room with someone inside. I tried to see the inside of the key culture, and I caught my eye on my grandfather addressing someone I saw only his back. Suddenly my grandfather's eye turned to me, and he looked at me like he was seeing me, so scared, and I went to sleep. Years passed and my grandfather died and we buried him, and I found him to have left me a great deal of money. On the second day of his death, I opened his room to see what had been in it all these years, but surprisingly, it had nothing but an old office and 2 chairs, and it was empty. After a while, I decided to renovate the house and change some details because its design is so old. I agreed with a friend of mine named Marawal, a decorator, and we started doing and changed the details of the second floor, and he started working on the first floor. But the second day came. The workers found no trace of their equipment. Even the paint found it spilled on the ground was a strange thing, and we tried to figure out why, but nothing. We bought other things and completed the work, and the next day we found the same thing, but this time we found strange words on the walls in black. We didn't understand what it meant. Meher and those with him almost left work, but I convinced them that a thief could have done this, especially since the door of the house was always open from below. The first floor had an old door, and no one had entered it in a while, and the work continued for the third day while one of the workers stood on something high. He jumped over him on the floor, and a hole appeared in a wooden door in the ground, and we marveled at his presence because he had old carpets over him that I didn't want to remove until the paint fell on him and then threw him in the garbage. He was skilled not with the workers, and the workers tried to explore what was under the door, removed it, and then found a crypt. 2 of the workers came in and tried to see what was inside, but found it very extended, and the other 2 workers found their colleagues coming out from the bottom, horrified, and their colleagues tried to ask them what had happened, but they didn't speak. They all went home and didn't tell anybody what happened, and they left everything to put on, and they agreed to tell Maher tomorrow. And I came back to my house and I found the door downstairs closed, and I went up to sleep. At night I heard the sound of strides outside the apartment where I slept, and I woke up and kept calling. Seconds later I heard feet running down the stairs, and I went out, but I couldn't find anything. I went back to sleep, and in the morning I didn't find the workers had come, and I was going to work, so I called Mar and asked him about it. He told me, "We found 2 workers killed in a horrible way in their homes. We found their bodies only, and we didn't find the head of any of them. The police are still investigating. The other 2 workers had their phones off and I couldn't reach them. But don't worry, I'll call workers who come to you to get some work done until I get to the other workers. They'll stay at night to get you done." I came home late, but I found the downstairs door closed, so I thought the workers finished their job and left. I went up to sleep, but a little later I found the phone ringing. If Skiled, I opened the call and I found him asking, "Are the workers still working?" So I answered that I found the door locked, and I thought they left. He said none of them have come to his house yet, and I don't know if they decided to stay at work until they complete the morning or not. I asked him to wait with me on the line, and I'll see if they're down there or not. I went down speeding and knocked on the door, but I couldn't find an answer. And I opened the door and went in, so I looked at the rooms, and I couldn't find anything. The last chamber entered and opened the light, finding the workers murdered in a grotesque manner as well, with their heads cut off. I came out speeding. As I went up to the ladder, I felt something following me, and I felt something touching my clothes from behind. But I quickly went up and closed the door, and it was only moments, and I heard feet coming down the ladder. I followed up quickly with Maher and asked him to come immediately, and I kept hearing steps and a strange breath that seemed like a wolf had his voice. I heard the sound of a skilled car and heard the sound of firing hard on the ladder and the sound of a terrible howl. And I was terrified. Suddenly I heard a skilled voice say, "Open," and when I was assured, I opened up. If I was skilled, he said. "What a monster looks like a wolf." I shot him and he ran away. We contacted a friend of ours with experience in the seaports, and he immediately came, and we came down to the apartment, and our friend started reading Quranic verses and consulted us with a stick that was in his hand. The two of you are now protected. We went off, and then we walked through the basement, and suddenly we found a place that looked like a prison, and a place on its walls was a lot of names. There is a closed room. We opened it quietly, and if my grandfather's body lay on the floor, it was beginning to decompose. We could carry him in kissa and get him outside, and our friend cleared the place of everything, and he came out gasping hard, and after he rested, he said, "It wasn't your grandfather who lived with you. It was one of the reserves who served the crypt. After his death, the resource remained in the crypt, and your grandfather apparently discovered the crypt and confined it to that room. He remained alive, likened to his own image, living with you, and when your grandfather died, he pretended to die. When we buried him, he went out at night and formed a wolf that locked him in his tomb, and he planned to capture you and live in your image. This species lives among us, and only very rare cases have been discovered, and your grandfather seems to have suffered a lot since his captivity. From now, everything is fine, but we have to rush to bury your grandfather and get that wolf out, because for as long as he is, he will kill a lot, and I think he will mean as skilled tonight as the workers intended." We rushed to the graveyard of our grandfather. If the wolf had come close to death, we took him out, and our friend cleared him of what he had touched, fired him, and buried my grandfather. Our friend said, "Now they are protecting us. He cannot do harm to anyone who will still fly everywhere and will never again form into the image of a human or an animal. And most of all, he's going back to his kingdom because we freed him from serving his master in that damn basement.